This is the outline of the first chapter in Awake Bride. We will focus on the biblical history of the spring feasts. The 7 lamps of the menorah are a good picture of the feasts. 3 spring feasts, 3 fall feasts, with the summer feast of weeks, later called Pentecost, in between. Leviticus 23, 4-11. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord 7 days. In the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When you be come into the land which I give to you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath the priest shall wave it. God commanded the Hebrews to put lamb's blood on their doorpost so the angel of death would pass over them. Only flat bread without leaven could be eaten for 7 days. The following Sunday the priests waved a sheaf of barley as an offering before the Lord. Exodus 12, 3-12. Speak you to all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper door post of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. Exodus 12, 14, and 21-28. And this day shall be to you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel, and said to them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when you be come to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say to you, What mean you by this service? That you shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away, and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. When the angel of death came, he would see the blood of the lamb and pass over that house. Exodus 12, 15-18. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. Many Jewish traditions surround each feast which enrich their meaning, and we will look at a few. Spring cleaning. Traditionally, Jewish women would begin cleaning house 30 days before this feast. All leaven would be removed except for a few choice crumbs which the wife hid for the ritual purging at dusk on the 14th. The father would light a candle, and he or the children would be given a wooden spoon and a feather to rid their house of every breadcrumb, which they would put into a paper bag, using the spoon or feather so that they don't touch it and become contaminated. Then they take the bag outside and burn it before having the Passover meal. The Feast of First Fruits is always held the Sunday morning after Passover. For the Hebrews at the Exodus from Egypt, that was on the morning of the 8th day from Passover. For Jesus, it was 3 days from Passover, so there would still be 4 more days of unleavened bread. The night of Passover, the Hebrews not only count 7 days of unleavened bread, traditionally they continue counting until the 50th day, which arrives at the Feast of First Fruits. Leviticus 23:15-21. And you shall count to you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even to the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. And you shall offer a new meat offering to the Lord. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruits to the Lord. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord. With the 2 lambs they shall be holy to the Lord for the priest. And you shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be a holy convocation to you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. Exodus 19:17-19. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended on it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace. And the whole mount quaked greatly. God answered him by a voice. Exodus 34:22. And you shall observe the Feast of Weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering at the year's end. The offering of the Feast of Weeks combines wheat flour, oil, and leaven into 2 loaves of bread. The spring Feast of First Fruits harvested barley and waved a sheaf of it, whereas the summer Feast of Weeks harvested wheat and waved 2 loaves of leavened bread. 8 days after Passover, the Hebrews crossed the Red Sea. 50 days after leaving Egypt, they hear God as a fire speak the 10 Commandments from Mount Sinai. Between the spring and fall feasts is the summer Feast of Weeks. The Hebrews heard the God of fire speak his covenant terms from Mount Sinai that day. Various herbs and legumes were harvested in spring, but the most important spring crops were cereals, barley and wheat. Newly harvested grain could not be eaten until the first fruits of grain had been offered on the day after the Sabbath of the festival of unleavened bread. Although barley and wheat were both planted in the autumn, barley matured faster and would be harvested sooner, and known as the early first fruits. Pentecost included prepared offerings of 2 wheat loaves with wine and oil, called the latter first fruits. Spring and summer feasts were fulfilled in Christ's first coming. It is assumed that the fall feasts will be fulfilled during Christ's second coming.